Here's why the Jon Snow spinoff was almost canceled. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we've got some truly surprising and heartwarming news from the WWE Universe. What if I told you that the long-awaited Jon Snow spinoff from Game of Thrones was actually on the brink of cancellation before it even had the chance to take flight? That's right, behind the scenes, HBO's highly secretive project centered on one of the most beloved characters in television history almost got scrapped before fans could even start dreaming about what it might look like. In today's deep dive, we're unpacking exactly why the Jon Snow spinoff was nearly canceled, what hurdles it faced from the start, and how Kit Harington's dedication, fan pressure, and HBO's shifting strategy ultimately saved it from the chopping block. So, buckle up, Thrones fans, because this is going to be a journey through the icy politics of TV production, the legacy of a controversial ending, and the surprising reasons that HBO nearly pulled the plug on the sequel everyone's been talking about. Before we dig into the cancellation drama, let's set the stage. Game of Thrones wasn't just a TV show, it was a global phenomenon. For 8 seasons, it captivated audiences, shattered records, and created a cultural moment that few series in history have matched. Characters like Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, Arya Stark, and Tyrion Lannister became household names. But when the series came to an end in 2019, things got complicated. The finale was one of the most divisive in TV history, leaving fans split between those who defended it and those who felt the showrunners had rushed the ending, betraying years of careful storytelling. And at the heart of that finale was none other than Jon Snow, the reluctant hero who went from bastard of Winterfell to king in the north, to the man who ultimately killed Daenerys to save the realm before being banished back to the Wall. That ending left fans asking, what happens next? What does Jon Snow's life look like beyond the Wall? And is that really the final chapter of his story? Those lingering questions made Jon Snow the perfect candidate for a spinoff. But as we'll see, turning that idea into reality was much harder than anyone expected. Back in 2022, fans were stunned when reports broke that HBO was developing a Jon Snow spinoff, with Kit Harington himself returning to reprise the role. Unlike the many prequel projects HBO had in the works, this was the first true sequel series connected directly to Game of Thrones. The buzz was immediate. Social media exploded with excitement, memes, and speculation. Could we see Jon exploring the unknown lands beyond the Wall? Would Ghost, his loyal direwolf, return? Could we get cameos from surviving characters like Arya, Sansa, or Tyrion? But as thrilling as the idea sounded, the spinoff faced major internal hurdles right from the beginning. The first reason the spinoff almost got canceled comes down to one word: reputation. No matter how beloved Game of Thrones was, its final season left a bitter taste in the mouths of many fans. Petitions demanding HBO remake the final season gained millions of signatures. Online discussions dragged the network and the creators through the mud. For HBO executives, launching a sequel meant reopening old wounds. What if fans rejected the spinoff as just another cash grab? What if the backlash to Season 8 tainted the spinoff before it even began? In fact, some insiders claim HBO almost killed the project early because they feared the bad PR of re-entering the Thrones universe with a sequel instead of focusing solely on prequels like House of the Dragon, which could distance itself from the finale drama. Another critical factor almost derailed the project: Kit Harington himself. After Game of Thrones ended, Kit revealed he had checked into rehab for stress and alcohol issues. The intense pressure of fame, combined with the emotionally draining role of Jon Snow, had taken a toll on him. Returning to the role wasn't a decision he could take lightly. In fact, insiders suggest that HBO wouldn't move forward unless Kit was fully on board, not just contractually, but emotionally and mentally. Kit took time away from big projects, appearing in smaller roles and stage plays, while also starting a family with fellow Thrones star Rose Leslie. At one point, he reportedly considered walking away from Jon Snow entirely, which would have effectively killed the spinoff. After all, can you imagine a Jon Snow show without Kit Harington? Neither could HBO. Here's something most fans don't realize. The Jon Snow series was just one of at least 7 different Thrones-related projects that HBO had in development. These included House of the Dragon, which eventually became the first to air, a prequel about Princess Nymeria, an animated series, and even a Dunk and Egg project. With so many irons in the fire, HBO faced tough choices about which projects to greenlight. If the Jon Snow spinoff didn't stand out as a clear winner, there was always a chance it could be quietly shelved in favor of others. At one point, executives reportedly worried that releasing too many Thrones projects could lead to franchise fatigue, something Disney has been criticized for with Star Wars and Marvel. In that scenario, the Jon Snow series, being the riskiest, was at the highest risk of cancellation. So what saved the Jon Snow spinoff? The answer is Kit Harington himself. According to George R.R. Martin, it was Kit who first pitched the idea for the spinoff, working directly with a team of writers and creatives to shape the concept. This wasn't just HBO forcing him back into the role. It was Kit championing Jon Snow's story and fighting to make it happen. Martin even revealed that the project's working title, simply called Snow, came from Kit's efforts. The fact that the actor most associated with the character was personally invested gave the project legitimacy and passion that no executive decision could replicate. Kit argued that Jon Snow's story was far from over. The spinoff wouldn't just be about nostalgia. It would be about exploring the consequences of the choices Jon made in the finale. What does it mean to kill the woman you loved for the greater good? How does Jon live with the guilt of betraying Daenerys? And what dangers await him in the uncharted world beyond the wall? That vision convinced HBO to keep the project alive when it was close to being axed. Another factor that saved the spinoff was fan demand. Despite the controversial ending of Game of Thrones, Jon Snow remained one of the most beloved characters in the entire saga. Polls consistently ranked him as the #1 fan favorite. The internet clamored for his return. Fan art, petitions, and speculation flooded Reddit and Twitter. Every time Kit Harington gave an interview, reporters asked about the possibility of a Jon Snow sequel. HBO executives took notice. Even if the risk was high, the potential reward, drawing millions of fans back to HBO subscriptions, was too big to ignore. So where does the Jon Snow spinoff stand today? Officially, HBO has not given it a release date. The project remains in development, with Kit Harington heavily involved and George R.R. Martin consulting. The show has survived multiple near cancellations, script overhauls, and executive doubts. While it's not yet guaranteed to reach screens, the fact that it's still alive, despite so many obstacles, is proof of how much HBO believes in the character's enduring power. Here's the twist. Even though the Jon Snow spinoff survived,